Michael Jackson's financial decisions. Let's be straightforward. We have no idea how much Michael Jackson has actually spent. Any estimations you make are likely to be wildly inaccurate, so instead, I want to go over some of the bills and provide some examples of how he spent his money. So, the megastar reportedly spent between $30 and $50 million on his lavish lifestyle each year. We'll discuss more about this bizarre collection of items, but these includes the famous Neverland Ranch, extensive art collections, jewels, and more. He previously dropped about $65 million on various video projects, including a feature he co-wrote with Stephen King that lasted only 35 minutes. He also splurged heavily on automobiles, apparel, and artwork, including a late 1800s portrait of Cleopatra's final moments that set him back more than $46,000. In the 1980s, he became well known for keeping a chimpanzee he named Bubbles. As a millionaire, he also owned a Rolls-Royce limousine with a plush interior, including a spacious rear compartment and embroidered headrest. That was one of his regular vehicles, although he has also a 1909 D Tempo, a Model B Roadster replica, an electric horse-drawn carriage, and a golf cart with a Peter Pan-inspired caricature of himself on the hood. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button and the notification bell to stay updated on our daily videos. A well-known turbus, a 1997 Neoplan modified to suit the king's need, was also at his disposal. It included plush king crown embroidered carpeting, gold-plated fixtures, granite, and porcelain worktops in the spacious bathroom. We will also discuss the legal settlements that resulted from a child molestation case. His biggest non-personal yearly expenditure is Neverland Ranch. The Neverland Ranch was named after Peter Pan's original home on Fantasy Island. While visiting Paul McCartney at the ranch for the first time, Michael got his first glimpse of the ranch itself. He paid up to $30 million for the property because he was so taken with it, which is little compared to what he created there. The ranch featured Michael's home and several guest houses in addition to a petting zoo, a train station dedicated to his mother named Catherine, 3 separate trains, a giant floral clock, and, most notably, an amusement park with rides including a Ferris wheel, a carousel, a zipper, an octopus, a pirate ship, a wave swinger, a super slide, a roller coaster, many bumper cars, and even an arcade. From the train that looped through the gardens, visitors could observe a variety of sculptures, including numerous bronze statues of children. The faucets in his bedrooms were also works of art, such as the gold swan-shaped spouts. Even while Michael Jackson wasn't living at the ranch at the time of his death, he certainly wasn't living on the cheap. Forbes estimated that the front gate alone was worth up to $30,000. Instead, he paid $100,000 a month to rent a mansion in Bel Air, a prestigious district of Los Angeles. How he made his money? We need to cover some new ground before we can get to the really ridiculous stuff. How he made his money, as this essential information for comprehending Michael Jackson's extravagant way of living. Now, I'm sure that most of you are familiar with some of today's most prominent musical features. The combined net worth of Jay-Z, Beyonce, Rihanna, and Kanye West is over $800 million. Despite their fame and popularity, the vocalists only make a modest living from album sales. Jay-Z's asset and Rihanna's cosmetics, for example, provide the bulk of their income. In contrast, Michael amassed the bulk of his wealth from his musical endeavors, like the album sales, concert tours, and product endorsements. Incredibly, Kanye West currently earns close to $250 million annually. He earns more than any other musicians I know. On its own in 2018, more than $400 million was made from Michael Jackson's album sales nearly a decade after his death. So now you know what sort of person we're discussing. During his career as a member of the Jackson 5 and later as the King of Pop, Jackson amassed a fortune of over $4 billion. He left behind about $500 million when he passed away. However, that is not the same thing as saying that he hoarded all the cash. You know, he ran into quite a few legal issues in the 1990s, one of which was an allegation of child molesting. He was very wasteful, carried heavy burdens, and refused to go on tour. Debt. The visible conflict around 1994, Michael and a youngster and his family went to court over a claim that Michael assaulted a child when he was a child. This began Michael's infamous death era. His legal bills were already substantial, but he spent a considerable sum buying of the family and trying to silence the press. The Jackson family reportedly received up to $25 million from Jackson and his estate to keep quiet and drop their public lawsuit, as reported by Billboard. Second, Michael's emotional and physical well-being declined precipitously after this. His career progressed more slowly, and he had to spend more money as a result. Auction. Creditors engaged accountant William R. Ackerman to determine how much money Michael Jackson owed before filing for bankruptcy. Jackson was putting $30 million annually on his debt at the time of his death. Taking into account his assets and liabilities, he was financially precarious at best. That, however, led to one of the most revealing glimpses into Michael Jackson's life to date, an auction which he attempted to pay off his debt by selling off a lot of his rare belongings. Funny thing is, Michael didn't want to get rid of all of that stuff. Instead, he intended to utilize the proceeds from his tour in 2009 to settle his debts. We've finally arrived. He took the banks to court to prevent their assets from being auctioned off, but he lost, costing him $2 million in legal fees. Let's get back on track by discussing what was actually auctioned off. Now, to begin on a smaller scale, Michael Jackson was a huge fan of movies from his era, including the likes of Star Wars, E.T., and the first Batman and Superman movies, which today's audiences might only care about for the paraphernalia. In typical Michael Jackson fashion, he expanded Neverland. Darth Vader stood at 7 feet tall, while statues of Batman and Superman were far too muscular for their time to be considered life-size. Both E.T. and Yoda were represented by sculptures, and both, like their respective heroes, were on the small side. Because of his passion for cinema, he even acquired memorabilia from lesser-known films, such as the iconic wooden set pieces from the Edward Scissorhands movie, with Johnny Depp as the title character, who, you got it, has scissors for hands. The man paid $5,300 for a pair of Johnny Depp's authentic gloves that were auctioned at auction. NBC adds that he spent $1.5 million on statue honoring Gone with the Wind as the Best Picture winner in 1939 to round out the Hollywood section. Not only was he famous, but also was his admiration for himself. The movie Moonwalker featured a robotic duplicate of his head. Different versions of his face were sculpted out of clay and painted. Each sculpture costs $3,000, while a painting will only set you back $1,000. Jackson also owned a number of unique items, such as the mold used to create the fangs featured in Thriller and the white Spandex gloves adorned with Swarovski diamonds. Also, there was this absurdly stolen hat from the Smooth Criminal video. It went for hundreds of thousands of dollars at auction alongside his family notebook and other belongings. It would be an understatement to suggest that this merely touches the surface of Michael Jackson's spending habits during his lifetime. Near the end of his life, he reportedly had to borrow $380 million against the value of his music archive since he had depleted his liquid assets. The fact that the music star has made more than twice that loan since his death demonstrates what a remarkable man he was, despite the fact that it took himself 5 years to waste all that money and fall broke again. That's it for today. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up below, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. We post videos every week, so stay notified. Thanks for tuning in. See you in the following video.